the story behind the story.
Okay.
And of course, with Robert Redford passing, very big deal. And when we went back in the archives and found your interview with him, we absolutely had to hear about it. Mike, you got so much time with him.
You know, Morgan, it was crazy. So just a quick backstory. We both worked in Salt Lake City. I worked at KTVX. You worked at KSL. Of course, I'm much older than you, so I was already here when you were there. But we both have Utah roots. Yeah. So when they decided to send a crew to the 2002 Winter Games, I was one of the 8 people they sent. And so we were there for a month, and we were covering all of the phenomenal 2002 games, which you also have to remember was the first Olympics after 9/11. Yeah. So Mitt Romney was in charge. It was a very interesting time in our country. Mm-hmm. And with Salt Lake City being a place where my parents had moved after leaving the upper Midwest, and a place that I kind of called my second home, I was so excited to go there. So for a month, we were doing lots of stories, obviously all the Olympic stories, the Minnesota Olympians. One of the really cool things that we had a chance to do was back then the only person to finish the slalom on a snowy day at Deer Valley was a girl named Lindsay Kildow.
Yes.
Who was 16.
Oh, that was before she was Yvonne.
Right. And so we got to interview her, and I know she commented about Robert Redford today, and he met her, and he said to her, I've been following you since you were Lindsay Kildow. And so kind of interesting. But obviously growing up with parents who loved the old movies, my dad loved Robert Redford. So when we moved to Salt Lake City, my parents moved to Salt Lake City, I went there for grad school. We went to Sundance because he owns the back half of the most beautiful mountain in northern Utah that I think, I don't know, Timpanogos.
Absolutely.
Do you agree with this?
Yes, Timpanogos is such a pivotal part of that area too.
I fell in love with it. I used to hike there with my dad. I used to spend time there. There was a restaurant there called Hole in the Wall Restaurant. There was a tree room. There was a tree growing in the middle of the restaurant. I had a chance to go there with my dad. Robert Redford lived there. There was a helicopter pad. He was at the restaurant when I never met him then. But when I went there for the Salt Lake City Games, I thought, I happened to get married at Sundance in 1994 to my husband, David Hopkins, because I loved it, and David loved it too. So I had a wedding at that gorgeous place in 1994. So now it's 2002. So and you do this all the time, I just thought, well, what the heck? I might as well, I'm doing the Saturday morning show from Salt Lake City, so I've got 2 hours to cover. I might as well see if I can get an interview.
Yeah.
And so I totally threw in. I'm like, hi, I'm Belinda Jensen. I'm a meteorologist from CARE TV in Minneapolis. I'm in Salt Lake City. I used to work at KTVX. I got married at your resort. I'm wondering if you would like to talk to me about the environmental effects of the Olympics. Because I knew that obviously that is one of his many accomplishments, is that he cares so much about it. So him owning that back half of that gorgeous peak, which is, by the way, in Utah County, which is south of Salt Lake County, and the canyon is tiny, and the resort is gorgeous, and it's very rustic. It's
the drive through
gorgeous.
There. Not even just in the winter, but you remember driving through there in the fall?
So pretty.
Oh my gosh.
And the hikes from there, and the Provo River, and the trouts, and the recreation is amazing. Mm-hmm. So that's what he chose. He chose to move to Utah and have that be his home.
Yeah.
And then I'm there. So I don't know how old I was back then. I don't know. I'm 57 now, so do the math. I'm younger. And I was blown away when his people said, sure, come on down.
How did you find out? Did they email or call?
I think it must have been an email. I mean, obviously we had email in 2002. I was in Salt Lake City most of the time with Tim McNiff and all the folks. And so when he said yes, we had the opportunity to do it on a night where we had some time. So we did the interview in the rehearsal hall where I had my wedding.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
The full circle of this.
Right.
Like, would you have ever imagined when you got married there that you'd be sitting in that hall again, interviewing the man that created Sundance?
No, and then interviewing someone that's such an icon. I mean, my goodness, so quickly, Morgan, as you know how this works in this business, sometimes you have lots of time to prepare, and sometimes you have a short amount of it. And I am not a journalist by trade. I'm a meteorologist who has become a storyteller because of the Saturday morning show. So, I mean, yeah, I had to quickly decide, okay, where am I going to take this interview? What am I going to do? And when you watch the interview, you will notice that I am absolutely nervous. I mean, my goodness, I'm sitting with him. His people were there. He walked in. He was super handsome, a little bit like I didn't know what to expect, like what he would look like. And he was a little shorter than I thought he was, but that's always funny, isn't that? Yeah. But I'm sort of tall, so it's fun. But and I'm just hoping I have like the right things on it. Anyway, they put us right in front of this fireplace at the rehearsal hall where I had my reception and my wedding. And so then right away we talked about that, of course, because I was one of the first weddings, big weddings there. They have 1 million weddings now. In fact, my college roommate's daughter had her wedding there 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So weird, I know. Totally
oh my gosh.
Crazy town. It's very fancy now. It's very different now. Back
they
then,
sold it actually. When I lived there, they sold off the ski resort.
They sold off the ski resort. They sold off the company the clothing company, but he still owns the land and he's still.
And his cabin. I think his cabin was still on that land.
And there's all sorts of cabins, and they had a helicopter pad that was across the road that you knew that's where he
that's so wild.
Landed. And he was there all the time, though. It was like if you were there back in those days when I lived there from 90 to 93.
And you would just bump into him?
You would bump into him because it was smaller back then. It wasn't like it is now.
Yeah. And
so you're
Utah
right.
was so small back then. We all know it now, right? And I know you and I love talking about our Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And of course, the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Utah is all over lately. But it was so secluded back then. And it was always kind of seen as the little sister to Denver.
Exactly. That is true. And I think that's why he probably, I'm just guessing that's why he wanted to go there. So he absolutely wanted to talk about how he was proud that Salt Lake City and Utah was hosting the games in 2002. But at the same time, I think part of him, and I would have to say part of me too, was like, oh, I hope the whole world doesn't find out about how gorgeous this place is. And of course they did, because of course they would. And that's what we talked about in the interview, is we talked about that. We talked about why it's so important for him to preserve land like that and keep it for generations. And of course that's what he did. So I don't know. It was, the whole interview was a blur. You know how those things are where you're like, what? We were driving back to Salt Lake and I'm like, what just happened?
What did we say?
Happened? I mean, and my photographers, Paul Rover, Paul, and Crocker and Ron were all like, as well as excited about it.
I bet the guys were so excited too.
And they wanted it to look really good. I mean, because obviously he is a film director.
Let's let it. I'm going to look in the camera and say this: you do not normally get 3 photographers for one interview. That is like such a big deal.
We had 4 there at the games. We had also Scott Jensen, but we just had an opportunity that evening. So it's almost like the stars aligned, and it was such a wonderful opportunity and such a unique opportunity that it was fun to do it. It was very nerve-wracking. It was very exciting. And then I put it together, I think, the next day quickly. And then we aired it the last Saturday of the Olympics on the Saturday show.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun that we could tease. And Belinda will sit down with Robert Redford. What is going on?
I was like, Frank was like, and by the way.
So as of, obviously today, when he passed away at 89 this morning, I woke up to that news. And it does make me, reflect back. But then as I was watching, it was actually Joe Fryer this morning did an amazing tribute to him.
And we love Joe Fryer.
We love Joe, Minnesota. And he talked about all of the roles he played, and then as he became a director and a producer, and then he became, of course, the person who started the Sundance Institute and the Sundance Film Festival. But then along the way, just a gentleman who obviously always cared about the environment, and so just a really remarkable man. Even they said even young people will know him because he was in some sort of blockbuster recently, some sort of Avengers.
The GIF, too, that he has that everyone thinks is Zach Galifianakis. Right, some of the young kids, not kids, sorry, they're not kids, but like some of the younger people at our newsroom were like, I thought that was Zach Galifianakis. I'm like, no, that's Robert Redford.
People should, if you have a moment, you should go, and I'm sure on the Sundance Channel, and I'm sure many other places, there'll be a number of Robert Redford movies that'll be on. I mean, I don't know what your favorite, my dad loved Butch Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which was also filmed mostly in southern Utah.
Yes.
And so
that kind of really put that state on the map for films too. I remember I did a story when I was there. They were bringing back their tax credit system. And of course, at the time, the big one that was being filmed there was Yellowstone. And so Kevin Costner was a big advocate, but Robert Redford led the charge for that tax program in its earlier phases. And so
the Utah Film Commission thing.
Yes, and it kind of came full circle. And
then, of course, Montana got upset because Utah got the accolades. So then the next 4 seasons of Yellowstone had to be filmed in Montana.
And then everyone in Montana hated it, too. My aunts and uncles live out there. They're like, get Yellowstone out of here. Go back to Utah. It's crazy.
Interesting.
I also thought of, too, one of my dad's favorite movies is Jeremiah Johnson. And that was such a gritty film for its time. And he was the main star in that one.
Yep.
And then, as you mentioned, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. But then also President's Men.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
And he played,
yes.
I think he played Woodward, right?
I think so. He is absolutely an icon, and if people have a chance, that it has parts of it have been sold off and whatnot, but probably just because of his age is what I'm guessing, because he still cared about it. But if you go there right now and you go into the main dining room, which is called the Tree Room, the art and the pictures that surround that room are all of those films. And so it's really a really cool place to go for many reasons. But if you're a film junkie, you love that whole deal, and you love the oldies, and you love the Westerns, and you love all the things that he has done, that is a place you absolutely have to go to. You have to go to Sundance, and it's not very far. It's about, as you know,
honestly like a 45-minute drive.
It is from the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was so fun. I could talk to you for hours about all of this. I mean, everything from Utah to Salt Lake to all of your cool experiences. I mean, like all of your stories from being on Minnesota Bound too. And we need to do this more because I think people,
that'd be fun.
Like I said, I'm like, we have our own little conversations and I love just picking your brain, but people could listen and hear more about this too.
Well, this has been, obviously I've been here a long time, 32 years, and CARE's always given me so many great opportunities. I mean, I've been really lucky. So I've had a lot of really interesting opportunities beyond doing the weather, which of course I need to go right now and do.
Like, what's deadlines? We better wrap this up.